She laughed when her mother warned her never to visit the cursed stream at night, but the next morning, something horrifying started crawling out of her skin. First one maggot, then hundreds. As her beauty faded and the village turned against her, Adise discovered a terrifying secret hidden beneath the sacred water, one that could destroy the entire village forever. There lived a beautiful young woman named Adise. She was admired for her smooth dark skin, long braided hair, and confident walk. Many young men dreamed of marrying her, but Adise carried pride in her heart like a crown. She believed no one in the village was wiser than her, not even her own mother, Maman Kem. One evening, as the harmattan wind swept through the village, Maman Kem called Adise into the kitchen hut. With a trembling voice, she warned her daughter never to visit the forbidden stream near the sacred forest after sunset. She explained that the stream belonged to ancient spirits who punished stubborn people. But Adise rolled her eyes and laughed, calling the old stories village superstition. The next morning, Adise joined other maidens at the village square where drums echoed and traders displayed colorful fabrics and spices. Her friends praised her beauty and mocked old traditions together. Adise enjoyed every moment of attention, boasting that fear was for weak people who still listened to elders. Later that night, Maman Kem noticed Adise secretly preparing a basket and calabash. She immediately suspected her daughter intended to visit the forbidden stream. The old woman begged her not to go, but Adise brushed past her roughly, declaring that no spirit could stop her from doing whatever she pleased. Moonlight covered the village as Adise walked confidently toward the sacred forest. Crickets chirped loudly while strange shadows danced between the trees. Despite hearing whispers carried by the wind, she continued until she reached the forbidden stream glowing under the moon. At the edge of the water stood an old woman dressed completely in white. Her eyes looked pale like smoke. She warned Adise to leave immediately and never touch the water. Instead of obeying, Adise insulted the stranger and dipped her calabash into the stream. The old woman disappeared instantly, and a cold silence swallowed the forest. The following morning, Adise woke up scratching her arm repeatedly. Small red bumps had appeared across her skin, but she ignored them and continued with her chores. By afternoon, the itching spread across her back and legs, making her uncomfortable. Maman Kem noticed the strange marks and became terrified. She questioned Adise about where she had gone the previous night. At first, Adise lied, but after her mother continued pressing her, she finally admitted visiting the forbidden stream. Maman Kem burst into tears, realizing her daughter had awakened an ancient curse. That evening, Adise screamed loudly from her room. Villagers rushed into the hut and froze in horror. A tiny white maggot crawled out from one of the sores on her arm. Adise cried and shook violently while more itching spread across her body. The villagers whispered fearfully outside the compound. Some claimed the spirits of the forbidden stream had possessed her. Others warned their children never to go near Adise again. But Maman Kem stayed beside her daughter all night, praying desperately for mercy. News of Adise's condition spread quickly throughout UCHE. Women stopped fetching water near her compound, and children ran away whenever they saw her mother approaching. The once admired beauty became a source of fear and gossip. Inside the hut, Adise could barely sleep. Every hour, new sores appeared on her skin, and tiny maggots slipped out painfully. The smell became unbearable. For the first time in her life, Adise regretted ignoring her mother's warning. Maman Kem traveled to a neighboring village to seek help from a respected herbalist named Dibia Ofoma. The old healer listened carefully before agreeing to examine Adise. When he arrived and saw the sores, his expression turned dark with concern. Dibia Ofoma explained that Adise had offended powerful spirits guarding the sacred stream. According to ancient tradition, only sincere repentance and spiritual cleansing could break the curse. But he warned that the spirits were extremely angry. The healer prepared herbs, ashes, and sacred leaves for a cleansing ritual beside the village shrine. Villagers gathered nervously as Adise sat trembling before the fire. Dibia Ofoma chanted ancient words while rubbing herbal paste onto her wounds. Suddenly, Adiz screamed in agony. Hundreds of maggots began pouring out from the sores faster than before. The fire extinguished itself mysteriously, and strong winds scattered the ritual items. Dibia Ofoma stepped back in fear, realizing the curse had grown stronger. After the failed cleansing, the village chief ordered Adiz to remain inside her compound to prevent panic. No one except Mama Nkem was allowed near her hut. Even her closest friends abandoned her completely. Loneliness consumed Adiz day and night. She stared at her reflection in a broken mirror and barely recognized herself. Her once beautiful skin was now covered in painful wounds. Tears filled her eyes as she remembered mocking her mother's warning. One stormy night, Adiz woke suddenly to find the mysterious old woman from the stream standing inside her hut. The woman's pale eyes glowed softly in the darkness. Adiz trembled with fear and begged for forgiveness. The spirit revealed that the forbidden stream was sacred because it protected the village from ancient evil. Anyone who disrespected it would suffer greatly. She warned Adiz that the curse would only end when she truly understood humility and obedience. Despite the terrible smell and fear surrounding her daughter, Mama Nkem never abandoned Adiz. She cleaned the wounds daily, cooked soft meals, and sang old lullabies to comfort her. Her love remained strong even while the entire village rejected them. One evening, Adiz broke down crying and apologized sincerely to her mother. She confessed how pride had blinded her heart. Mama Nkem held her daughter tightly and promised they would continue searching for a cure together. Dibia Ofoma eventually returned with news of another healer living deep in the mountains beyond the forest. According to legend, the healer understood spiritual curses older than the village itself. Mama Nkem immediately decided to take Adiz there. Wrapped in cloth to hide her wounds, Adiz traveled painfully beside her mother through rough paths and thick forests. Along the journey, people stared at her in fear. But Mama Nkem never loosened her grip on her daughter's hand. At the top of the mountains lived an elderly woman named Mama Ejiro, known for her wisdom and mysterious powers. She welcomed them calmly and examined Adiz without fear. Her eyes carried both sadness and understanding. Mama Ejiro explained that the curse fed on arrogance and disobedience. She said Adiz's healing would require more than herbs, it would demand a transformed heart. The young woman would have to serve others humbly for 7 days. Mama Ejiro ordered Adiz to clean the huts of poor villagers living nearby. Weak and ashamed, Adiz obeyed silently. She swept dusty floors, carried firewood, and washed clothes for strangers who barely thanked her. Each task exhausted her, yet something slowly changed inside her heart. For the first time, Adiz understood the value of humility. She realized how cruelly she had treated her mother and others when pride controlled her life. On the 4th day of service, Adiz encountered a starving orphan boy sitting beside the road. Although she barely had enough food for herself, she shared her meal with him. The child smiled gratefully before running away. That night, Mama Ejiro noticed fewer maggots emerging from Adiz's wounds. She explained that genuine kindness weakened the curse. Hope finally returned to Mama Nkem's heart after many painful weeks. Mama Ejiro later revealed the hidden history of the forbidden stream. Long ago, powerful ancestors sacrificed greatly to seal away dark spirits beneath the water. The stream remained sacred because disrespect could weaken the seal. Adiz listened carefully, ashamed that she had mocked traditions she never understood. She realized elders preserved certain warnings not to control the young, but to protect them from unseen dangers. Although the maggots reduced slightly, Adiz began suffering terrible nightmares every night. She saw dark figures rising from the stream and dragging villagers underwater. The dreams felt frighteningly real. Mama Ejiro warned that the spirits were testing Adiz's sincerity. If she returned to pride or dishonesty, the curse would become permanent. Adiz promised never to disrespect sacred traditions again. Back in Amuaka, strange things started happening near the forbidden stream. Livestock disappeared mysteriously, and villagers heard terrifying cries at night. Fear spread quickly throughout the community. The village chief sent messengers to Mama Ejiro, believing Adi's disobedience had disturbed the spirits protecting the land. Suddenly, Adis realized her mistake endangered not only herself, but everyone around her. Mama Ejiro instructed Adis to return to the sacred stream and publicly confess her wrongdoing before the ancestors. Though terrified, Adis agreed. She knew true healing required courage and responsibility. As they journeyed back toward Umuaka, Adis prayed continuously. She no longer cared about beauty or pride. All she desired was forgiveness for bringing suffering upon herself and her people. Villagers gathered nervously near the sacred stream as Adis stepped forward trembling. Her body remained scarred, but her voice carried honesty for the first time. She admitted ignoring her mother's warning and insulting the spirit guardian. Falling to her knees, Adis begged the ancestors and the village for forgiveness. Suddenly, the water began glowing softly beneath the moonlight. A calm wind swept through the forest, replacing the heavy darkness. From the glowing stream emerged the spirit woman dressed in white once again. This time, her expression appeared softer. The villagers watched silently in fear as she approached Adis slowly. The spirit declared that humility had finally entered Adis' heart. However, complete healing required one final act of sacrifice. Adis would need to protect the sacred stream from an approaching darkness. That same night, terrible screams echoed from the forest. Villagers spotted shadowy creatures moving near the stream. Dibia Ofoma explained that Adis' disobedience had weakened the ancient spiritual barrier. The village chief ordered everyone indoors while elders prepared protective rituals. Adis felt overwhelming guilt knowing her actions allowed danger to enter their land. She vowed to help repair the damage no matter the cost. Mama Ejiro revealed an ancient clay pot hidden for generations. According to legend, the pot contained sacred water blessed by the ancestors. It could strengthen the spiritual barrier if poured into the forbidden stream during midnight. However, the journey would be dangerous because dark spirits now roamed the forest freely. Without hesitation, Adis volunteered to carry the sacred pot herself. Mama Nkem looked at her daughter proudly for the first time in many months. Accompanied by Mama Ejiro and Dibia Ofoma, Adis entered the dark forest carrying the sacred pot carefully. Strange whispers surrounded them, and cold winds shook the trees violently. Halfway through the journey, shadowy figures attacked from the darkness. Adis nearly dropped the pot in fear, but she remembered the suffering caused by her pride. Gathering courage, she continued forward despite the terrifying creatures. When they reached the forbidden stream, the water had turned black like oil. The air smelled rotten, and ghostly voices echoed from beneath the surface. Adis trembled but refused to run away. Following Mama Ejiro's instructions, she poured the sacred water into the stream while speaking words of repentance. Instantly, the black water began glowing brightly, and the shadowy spirits screamed in anger. As the light spread across the stream, the remaining maggots inside Adis' body suddenly burst out painfully. She collapsed to the ground screaming while villagers watching from afar cried in fear. The spirit woman appeared again and explained that the curse was leaving Adis completely. However, the process would test the limits of her strength. Adis endured the agony bravely, determined never to return to her old ways. Throughout the night, Mama Nkem held her daughter tightly while the painful cleansing continued. Adis drifted between consciousness and terrifying visions of the spirits she had offended. Just before dawn, silence finally filled the forest. The sores across Adis' body slowly stopped bleeding, and no more maggots emerged. The first sunlight touched her face as peace returned to the stream. Villagers gathered around Adis cautiously the next morning. Though scars remained on her body, her face looked healthier than it had in months. Many were shocked to see her alive after such terrible suffering. Adis stood before the community and thanked everyone who prayed for her despite her mistakes. She especially honored her mother publicly, admitting that wisdom often comes through painful experience. Although the curse had ended, some villagers still feared Adis. Mothers warned their children not to forget what happened to her. Adis accepted their caution humbly without anger. To rebuild trust, she dedicated herself to helping the community daily. She fetched water for elders, cared for sick children, and assisted farmers in the fields. Slowly, people began seeing the new goodness in her heart. Months later, the village prepared for its annual cleansing festival honoring the ancestors. Unlike previous years, Adis volunteered to help organize the sacred ceremony. During the celebration, elders shared stories about respecting traditions and listening to wise counsel. Adis stood quietly beside her mother, grateful to still be alive after nearly losing everything. One afternoon, a handsome traveler named Obinna arrived in Umuaka seeking shelter. He heard rumors about Adis' curse and became curious about her story. Unlike others, Obinna did not judge Adis by her scars. Instead, he admired her honesty and humility. Their conversation slowly blossomed into friendship, surprising many villagers. Children often gathered around Adis to hear stories about the forbidden stream. Rather than hiding her painful experience, she shared it openly to teach them the dangers of pride. She explained that warnings from elders are not always meant to limit freedom. Sometimes they protect people from consequences beyond human understanding. The children listened carefully to every word. The village chief eventually called a public meeting at the square. He praised Adis for her transformation and bravery in helping restore the sacred barrier. As a sign of forgiveness, the chief appointed Adis as one of the guardians responsible for teaching younger generations about village traditions. Tears filled Mama Nkem's eyes with pride. Although healed physically, Adis still carried emotional pain from her terrible ordeal. Sometimes she woke at night remembering the maggots crawling from her skin. Mama Ejiro reminded her that scars can become powerful reminders of wisdom gained through suffering. Adis slowly learned to see her scars not as shame, but as proof of survival and change. Despite hearing Adis' story, a group of reckless village youths secretly planned to visit the forbidden stream themselves. They believed the old legends were exaggerated. When Adis discovered their plan, she rushed to stop them. Standing before the youths, she removed the cloth covering her scars and showed them the painful consequences of disobedience. The youths stared in shock at the scars covering Adis' body. Fear replaced their arrogance immediately. They apologized sincerely and abandoned their dangerous plan. That evening, Adis thanked the ancestors quietly beside the sacred forest. She realized her suffering now served a greater purpose by protecting others from making the same mistake. As months passed, Obinna's affection for Adis deepened. One evening beneath the moonlight, he confessed his love and asked permission to court her properly. Adis hesitated, worried her cursed past and scars made her unworthy of love. But Obinna gently reminded her that true beauty grows from character, not flawless skin. Mama Nkem welcomed Obinna warmly into their family compound. For the first time in years, laughter returned fully to the household. Watching her daughter smile again healed Mama Nkem's wounded heart. She silently thanked the ancestors for giving Adis another chance at life and happiness. One peaceful night, the spirit woman appeared to Adis in a dream. Instead of fear, Adis felt calm as the spirit approached. The spirit praised Adis' transformation and revealed the ancestors were pleased with her humility. She declared that the darkness threatening the village had finally been sealed away permanently. Excitement filled Umuaka as preparations began for Adis and Obinna's traditional wedding. Women sang joyful songs while men decorated the village square. Many villagers reflected on how greatly Adis had changed. The same woman once consumed by pride now inspired others through wisdom and kindness. However, not everyone celebrated Adis' happiness. A jealous woman named Chisholm spread cruel rumors that Adis' curse would return after marriage. Instead of responding angrily, Adis approached Chisholm calmly and shared her story honestly. Her kindness shocked Chisholm deeply and eventually softened her bitter heart. Before the wedding ceremony, elders gathered at the sacred stream to offer blessings for Adis' future. This time, the water flowed peacefully under bright sunlight. Adise knelt beside her mother and thanked the ancestors for mercy. The villagers smiled warmly, seeing how completely she had changed from the stubborn girl she once was. The wedding day arrived with drumming, dancing, and colorful traditional attire. Villagers from neighboring communities attended the grand celebration. As Adise danced beside Obinna, she remembered the dark days when she believed her life was over. Tears of gratitude filled her eyes while Mama Nkem watched proudly from nearby. After marriage, Adise moved into Obinna's compound where they built a peaceful life together. She continued helping the village and teaching children valuable lessons. People often visited her seeking advice about family problems and stubborn children. Her painful experience gave weight to her words, and many respected her wisdom. A year later, Adise gave birth to a healthy baby girl. Joy spread throughout Umuaka as villagers celebrated the child's arrival. Holding her daughter close, Adise promised never to ignore the responsibility of guiding her wisely. She now understood the deep fear and love behind a mother's warnings. As years passed, Adise's story became one of the most famous folktales in the region. Elders shared it beside evening fires to teach younger generations about humility. Children listened with wide eyes whenever the terrifying part about maggots emerging from her body was told. But the deeper lesson always remained obedience, respect, and transformation. When Mama Nkem grew old and weak, Adise cared for her with endless devotion. One evening, the old woman held her daughter's hand and smiled gently. She reminded Adise that wisdom often sounds unpleasant before consequences arrive. Adise wept softly, grateful she eventually listened before losing her life completely. Not long afterward, Mama Nkem passed away peacefully in her sleep. The entire village mourned her because everyone knew her prayers and love saved Adise. During the burial ceremony, Adise honored her mother publicly. She declared that no treasure in the world compares to the guidance of a loving parent. Years later, Adise officially became the chief guardian of the sacred stream. She protected the traditions carefully and ensured younger generations respected the ancestors. Whenever curious youths questioned the old warnings, Adise quietly uncovered the scars hidden beneath her clothing. That single sight usually ended every argument immediately. Long after Adise grew old, villagers still gathered around evening fires to tell her story. They spoke of the proud young woman who ignored her mother's warning and suffered terribly.